Hi, my name is Rich Harrington, and welcome to this edition of Video Adrenaline for Premiere Pro. Today, I want to show you the great new feature that's in After Effects CS 5.5 for image stabilization, but we're going to tie it seamlessly into Premiere Pro using Dynamic Link. So this is sort of a 2-for-1. If you've got After Effects CS 5.5, you could take advantage of this new feature. Plus, you can also learn a little bit about how Dynamic Link will let you seamlessly exchange files between the two programs. Here's how it works. In my timeline here, I can go ahead and select a clip that I want to send to After Effects and just right-click on the body of the clip and choose Replace with After Effects Composition. When I do this, the Save Project window comes up, and I'm just going to store another After Effects project with the same name as my Premiere project. I recommend you put these in the same folder on your hard drive where you're organizing your media, so it's pretty straightforward. And we'll just go ahead and save that. There we go. And it sends it on over. So you notice we have a new sequence and a comp. Let's go ahead and set this to one view. We'll select the footage layer and choose Animation, Stabilize Motion. When you apply this, it's going to go through and analyze the shot. Unlike the previous Stabilize command, you don't have to actually pick any control points. After Effects will analyze the shot, find its own tracking points, and intelligently compensate. There's also several different methods for stabilizing. You have the more traditional position, scale, rotation, but you also have two newer ones that could actually rotate the image on 3D perspective to compensate, or warp the image to go through and do some pretty advanced compensation. Let's see how that works. You notice here it's telling us our progress as we go through. This effect is not going to lock you out. I could switch right back over to Premiere Pro. Notice I see what's happening in After Effects right there. And I could select my other shot and do the same thing. Control, click, or right click and say Replace with After Effects Composition. Sends it over. There's the shot. Let's go ahead and choose Animation, Stabilize Motion, and that one starts to analyze. Notice that the two effects are independent. You can in fact invoke multiple instances of the Warp Stabilizer and have it processing different clips at different times. This works great because you can just keep working, bouncing back and forth the two programs using Dynamic Link, and it's really pretty straightforward. Let's go over here to this first shot, and we see that it's just about finished out. It's got about 40 seconds. Let's talk about some of the options here. First off, you have smooth motion and no motion. This is really subjective. If you are trying to simulate the use of a tripod, you're going to choose no motion if you wanted the shot locked off. Now, when you choose no motion, the shot has to scale up larger. This is fine. Just realize that the more motion you have, the more scaling is going to be needed. If you have a lot of motion in the shot, trying to lock it off with no motion can lead to a lot of scaling and softening of your pixels. But if you were cradling the camera or set it on a ledge and just didn't have an actual tripod, this is a good option. On the other hand, smooth motion lets you preserve some of the energy and movement of the original shot. And you could dial in the intensity of the smoothness, which gives you great control. In this particular example, we'll see both come into play. All right, for this example here, we're going to choose no motion. You see that it's actually finished the analysis and it now says it's stabilizing. The good news here is that this will go much faster. What's happened here is that that analysis process had to happen, but as we make tweaks, it's intelligently cached that analysis and it will go much faster as we twiddle with the sliders. So here we go. We've told this to do. We'll start with perspective, and we've got that set for no motion, and let's preview that out. You see that indeed the shot is perfectly locked down. Now you might be saying, well, it looks great. What did it look like before? Here's where I like to show you how you could sort of see just how much work the program is doing. Instead of choosing the Stabilize, Crop, and Auto Scale, I'll just go to Stabilize Only. And when you do this, you could see the rotation and the amount of stabilization. And what those black edges are showing you there is how much work the app is doing. So if you want to quickly illustrate to your client the benefits and just how much you did to fix that shot, taking a look at Stabilize Only will sort of show you the drifting there and how much work is being done to repair. So let's go ahead and switch that back to Stabilize Crop and Auto Scale, and we'll invoke that at half quality. And notice it didn't have to reanalyze or do anything. We could switch between settings, make adjustments, and it goes much, much faster there. And you get a really good idea that this really turned into a simple locked off tripod style shot, despite the fact that when I shot it, I didn't have a tripod. So that looks pretty good there. Not too bad for a handheld shot. Looks rock solid. Let's switch on over to the other example where there was a lot of movement. Here we go. This one is stabilized out, and we've chosen smooth motion, and we're going to use the more advanced subspace warp. Let's take a look at what this started like to begin with here. We'll just run that through, and you'll see there's a lot of jiggle, there's some whip pans, and it's trying to find the shot and follow the action. Well, there it is. Pretty wobbly shot. I've never tried to say that I was a DP, but I'd like to fix this shot nonetheless to make it more usable. So let's turn that on. We'll go with the default value of 50% to start, and let's see how that looks. Notice the whip pan and the energy is still there, but it's much smoother and all of those bumps and jiggles have been worked out. That's looking pretty good there. It pans over to follow the action. Again, let's change this to Stabilize Only, and you could really see just how much work is being done there. A lot of movement. So there's a lot of compensation intelligently, and notice I didn't have to pick any reference points or control points to do this. We'll switch that back, and you'll notice some other advanced options down here. You can actually synthesize the edges if you needed to. It's pretty advanced and time intensive, but it uses technology similar to the content-aware fill there in Photoshop to try to intelligently guess. I don't recommend that unless you have just very subtle motion. The other thing is under the advanced area here, you can do a detailed analysis and actually compensate for rolling shutter reduction. This can go ahead and remove some of the things that are prone to CMOS type sensors where you get a bending effect with quick pans and such. So this works really, really well. Let's go ahead and we'll just quickly cache this. Let it preview out. We'll take a look at it. See, it looks good. If I want to increase that amount of smoothness, let's go up to, say, 80%. I'll notice that the auto scale value had to go higher, but the shot is much smoother. And that's really quite impressive of just how good that is. Notice subjects crossing in front of each other, all sorts of action, all sorts of intersection, no control points or tracking points to define. The application just does that for you, and it does a really good job. So we'll switch on back here. Let's just hit Save to capture our changes. And we'll switch back to Premiere Pro. And you'll see that there they are right there in the timeline. And so if I hit play, it's going to take a little bit as the frames get cached back and forth. But eventually, and not very long, those frames will actually get background processed in After Effects and handed off to Premiere Pro so you can continue to work with these like they were regular clips. That works very well. And of course, when you do your final render or your final export, these will get updated with rendered frames without ever having to render out of After Effects or export movies or line them up and replace. So, like I said in the beginning, sort of a twofer there. A great overview of how Dynamic Link works, and the wonderful new Warp Stabilizer feature is part of After Effects CS 5.5. For CreativeCow.net, my name is Rich Harrington. Be sure to head on over to the website where you'll find a ton of great resources, including Creative Cow Magazine and a lot of podcasts all about Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, DSLR video. Great things there. Head on over.